Have you ever wondered if you can combine different retirements between state, guard, military, civilian into one retirement package? If you have, then stay tuned for this FERS Federal Fact Check. Hi, I'm Micah with Plan Your Federal Retirement, and welcome to today's FERS Federal Fact Check, where we have a question that coming in from T about combining different retirements. And T says, I have 2 years of state retirement contributions, 10 years military, 7 years federal, 3 years guard. Can I combine state federal retirement contributions? Do you have to be a current federal employee to participate in the buyback program? Can reserve military service retirement points be used? Man, T, that is a great question. Well, spoiler alert, I'm not going to be able to answer it all. There's a lot of it depends inside of each one of these components that you have just added. So let's talk about it a little in general. For the most part, can you take a state retirement and add that to your federal retirement? No, you may not. In general, right? DC is going to be a little bit different because it's mainly under a federal system. But let's say you're in the beloved state of Alaska. It's a great state, by the way. You're in the state of Alaska, and they have a 4-tier system, tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. You cannot take any of those points of the state of Alaska system and move it into a federal system. Those are, while it's government service is two different governments, those do not combine. Well, then you talk about your military service, 7 years federal, 3 years guard. I'm not 100% sure what that means. Is the federal service mean like uniform service? There's active duty service, or were you just 3 years in the guard and you had 7 years as a civilian federal employee? So I'm not 100% sure on that one. So let's just talk about the rules for buying time back. If you are a civilian federal employee, you must have boots on the ground time that you were actually in an agency working of at least 5 years to vest. And you can buy back your military time, including your guard time. Guard time, you get a double dip, actually still counts for a guard retirement and it counts for civilian retirement. You can buy that time and add it in. I'm not 100% clear, T, I apologize based on what you said about how many years you have where. So this is definitely something to dive a little bit more details in. If all you have had is military time and you are not a civilian federal employee, no, you cannot buy any of that time back. You must be a civilian federal employee in order to buy that military time back. And when you make that deposit again and you work for 5 years under civilian service, now you're eligible for retirement. So if I had 10 years of military time and I had 5 years of civilian time boots on the ground, I could buy those 10 years back. And now plus my 5, that gives me 15 years of federal service that counts towards retirement, which is a pretty good deal. But nope, we can't add that state retirement in. That's generally a completely separate thing. So you bring up a really good point that retirement gets complicated, right? You have a lot of these different sleeves and different things moving around. And it's really important to understand these rules and to yourself or sit down with someone else that says, hey, this is how it works. So I'm not saying you have to hire us, but sitting down with somebody, getting a third party opinion that can look at your situation objectively and say, hey, here's how the rules work. Here's how to put things together is really, really important. I tell my clients all the time, I'd rather you ask me small questions all the time so we could avoid big problems than fear not asking me a question. And now I have to be brought in to solve a big problem that could have been avoided. I hate those. Man, I love to avoid problems before they are. So when you're in pre-retirement mode with these questions, this is where you avoid questions all the time. It's also sometimes when people call our office and say, hey, I got a quick question. It's X. And we have a wonderful team. They're really great. They really want to help you guys out. But sometimes I got to tell them, hey, it's not a quick question. Like, sure, it seems like a quick question, but there's so many other things that we have to talk about. And I kind of talk about this in a medical sense, right? If I call up my doctor, my GP, and say, hey, I got this rash, I got this irritation, would you just give me a prescription? They're going to say no. Come in for an appointment. Come in for a checkup. Like, no. I don't want a checkup. I'll do that later. Don't you worry about it. I just need to deal with this problem I have now. I want the prescription now. I'm headed to the pharmacy. They're probably not going to give it to me, right? It might be malpractice. They need to understand the full sets of circumstances before they give a prescription. And sometimes with your guys' questions, which I love, your questions are fantastic, there's so many other parts to them. It says, no. We need a little bit more information to give you the right answer that you have. So make sure you're making the time to work with somebody. And again, it doesn't have to be us. There's a lot of great advisors that are out there, but meet with somebody that really understands federal benefits, that can understand your situation, look at all of this extra stuff and dial it down to you to make sure you're taken care of in retirement. So when you have questions, make sure you're submitting to us. We're going to do the best we can to answer them. If we can, we're going to tell you, schedule an appointment, but make sure you're getting on those questions to us because you could be featured in our next FERS Federal Fact Check. Till then, happy planning.